Okay, we have all been there, right? You spend hours and hours cramming for a big exam, your textbook is a sea of highlighter ink, you've reread your notes until your eyes are completely glazed over, and then what happens? The moment you sit down to take the test, it's like it all just vanishes. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things about learning. But what if the real problem isn't how long you study, but how you study?
It really does feel like this sometimes, doesn't it? Like your brain is a leaky bucket. You keep pouring in all these facts and dates and formulas, but by the next morning it feels like half of it has just drained away. Well, guess what? You're not imagining it. There's a very real scientific reason for this, and even better, there are scientifically backed ways to plug those leaks for good.
The main culprit here is something that psychologists call the fluency illusion. See, when you reread your notes over and over, the text starts to feel really familiar, and your brain, well, it mistakes that easy feeling of recognition for genuine understanding. It feels simple, so you think, oh yeah, I got this. But here's the catch. Recognition is not the same thing as recall, and that's the trap that leads to that awful blank feeling during an exam.
So why does this even happen? I mean, why are our brains wired this way? The answer lies in a pretty fundamental principle of memory that was discovered over a century ago, and it perfectly explains our brain's natural and kind of frustrating tendency to just forget.
This is it, the forgetting curve, first mapped out by the psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, and honestly, it's kind of brutal. It shows just how predictably and steeply we forget new information if we don't do anything to reinforce it. Just look at these numbers. After only 1 hour, about half of what you learned is gone. After a single day, 70% has vanished, and within a week, a staggering 90% is just gone. Now, this isn't a personal failing, okay? It's just how our memory works by default. But here's the good news. We are not stuck with this curve. Not at all. Decades of cognitive science have given us some really powerful evidence-based principles to fight back against forgetting. So let's dive into the 2 golden rules that are, and I mean this, absolute game changers.
Golden rule number 1 is spaced repetition. So instead of cramming everything into one night, you review the material at increasing intervals. You might look at it after 1 day, then maybe 3 days later, then a week after that. What you're doing is you're interrupting that forgetting curve right at the moment the memory is about to fade. And each time you do that, the memory gets stronger, it gets more durable, and that curve starts to flatten out. You're basically working with your brain's natural rhythm instead of fighting against it.
And the second golden rule is active recall. You might also hear this called retrieval practice. The core idea here is that real lasting learning happens when you pull information out of your brain, not just when you're passively trying to stuff it in. So instead of just rereading a chapter, close the book and try to summarize it out loud. Instead of just glancing at a flashcard, force yourself to say the answer before you flip it over. This is the mental workout that actually builds strong memories.
Okay, so we have our 2 big principles. Space out your reviews and actively recall the information. But what does that actually look like when you sit down to study? Let's build out a toolkit of some really powerful, actionable techniques you can start using today.
First up, let's talk about the Cornell Method. Now, this is so much more than just a way to take notes. It's a full-blown system for active learning. So during a lecture, you take your notes in that main, wide column. But here's where the magic happens. Afterwards, you go back and pull out the most important keywords or even turn them into questions in that narrow side column. Then, to review, you just cover up the main notes and use those cues to test yourself. It literally builds active recall right into your note-taking process.
Now, for all of you who are more visual thinkers, there's mind mapping. This technique is amazing because it moves away from those boring linear notes and really helps you see the bigger picture. You start with one central idea right in the middle, and then you branch out, visually showing all the relationships, the hierarchies, and the connections between different ideas. It's a brilliant way to understand how all the little pieces of information actually fit together into a whole system.
So, which one should you use? Well, as you can see here, it really depends on what you're trying to learn. The Cornell Method is absolutely fantastic for courses that are heavy on detailed sequential facts, things like history or law. On the other hand, mind mapping really shines when you need to grasp those complex conceptual relationships, like in philosophy or biology. The key is to just match the tool to the type of learning the subject demands.
All right, next up is a technique called chunking. Our short-term memory is, let's be honest, famously limited. Classic research suggests it can really only hold about 7 pieces of information at once. Chunking is the perfect hack for this limitation. Think about it. You don't remember a phone number as 10 separate digits, right? You remember it as 3 chunks. You can apply this same idea to anything, grouping vocabulary words by a common theme or historical events by era.
It's all about making massive amounts of information manageable for your brain.
Now, for a technique that's a little less common, but wow, is it effective? Interleaving. Instead of studying one single topic in a solid block for an hour, you mix it up with other related topics. So, for example, in a math class, don't just solve 20 problems of the exact same type. Mix in a few different types of problems. It feels harder, but it forces your brain to learn how to tell the difference between the concepts, and that leads to a much deeper, more flexible understanding in the long run.
Okay, now, if you really want to see what your memory is capable of, let's look at a couple of advanced mnemonic techniques. Seriously, these have been used for thousands of years, and when you get the hang of them, they can feel like a genuine learning superpower.
The method of Loci, also known as the memory palace, is legendary for a reason. It works by leveraging our brain's incredible spatial memory. All you do is choose a place you know like the back of your hand, your house, your walk to class, and you mentally place the things you need to remember in different spots. To recall them, you just take a little mental walk through your palace and pick them up. It's surprisingly powerful.
Very similar to that is the linking method. With this, you create a bizarre, vivid, and memorable story that connects the items on a list. And trust me, the crazier the image, the better it sticks. So, for example, to remember a shopping list of eggs, bread, milk, you might picture a giant egg cracking open to reveal a loaf of bread that's floating down a river of milk. Our brains are just wired for stories, not for boring lists.
And look, these aren't just cool party tricks. The data is pretty clear. Studies show that using techniques like chunking, visualization, and these other mnemonics can increase how much you remember by this much, 200 to 400%. That's compared to just passively rereading your notes. That is a massive, massive difference, and it's all about using your memory the way it was actually designed to work. So this begs the question, right? If these techniques are so incredibly powerful, why isn't everyone using them all the time? Well, research has a pretty clear answer, and it points to the single biggest hurdle you'll face when you try to start studying smarter. The reason is actually pretty simple. It's hard work. As this quote from a study on student habits shows, even when students knew about these effective strategies, they often avoided them because of what they called the cognitive costs. Basically, the time, the effort, and the planning required. Just rereading your notes feels easy and comfortable. Active recall, on the other hand, can feel difficult and even a little clumsy at first. And this brings us to probably one of the most important concepts in all of learning science: desirable difficulties. The key idea here is that the struggle you feel isn't a sign that you're failing. It's actually a sign that you're learning. When you have to really work hard to retrieve a memory, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain that this information is important and worth holding on to. That very effort is what forges a strong, long-lasting memory. Ultimately, it all just comes down to this. The students who really excel aren't necessarily the ones pulling the most all-nighters or practically living in the library. They're the ones who have moved beyond brute force studying. They are using these evidence-based strategies to make their study time incredibly efficient, effective, and powerful.
So you see, it's really not about having a good memory or a bad memory. It's about having a trained memory versus an untrained one. And you now have the toolkit to start training yours. So the only real question left is, which one of these powerful techniques are you going to put into practice first?